All right. So first thing that we are going to look at here, I'm just going to review kind of what we did. So we have this a takeoff. What a takeoff is you have a project or plans or something that you're trying to figure out how much materials you need to construct or finish that project. Okay, so it's the material count, right? How much of certain materials you need. And we went over and said, hey, we need some sheeting, some shingles, drip edge, 2x4 studs, 2x6 studs, and plates. All right. We gave the project name, and we put down the date. All right. Then we started looking at the drawings itself and figuring out, in order to figure out how much sheeting or like OSB or plywood we need to put on the outside of the building, we had to find the area of the different parts of the building. All right. Now, because I didn't label these, all right, you might not know what these numbers come from. All right, but these two numbers were from the exterior walls. All right, we had one wall that was a 12x8 wall, and because it was a box building, there's two of those walls, one on either side. That's why we multiplied by 2. Yeah, and then there's also the other two walls of our building that were 10x8 feet, and we had 2 of those, so multiply that by 2. And because they're rectangles, all we had to do was length times width, 10 times 8. Okay. And so that was our outside walls. This here was our roof, right? We had a roof that was 12 feet across, and then we had this, there's a rectangle, right? But the other rectangle was 7 feet, 8.5 inches. So we did a little bit of calculation in here to change that into 7.7083. Okay, all this math was just essentially changing the inches into decimal parts of a foot. That's all that we did there. We had 2 of those sides, right? So we had to times by 2. So that was the roof. And this was our little gable end that we had, our little triangle. And we added up all those surfaces, B5 through E5, and that's how many total square feet we had for our hut. Okay. Just to show you a picture here. Okay, so we took, there's the rectangle here, 12 feet. We figured out it was 8 feet tall, 10 feet, 8 feet. We figured out those sides. Here's the rectangles on the roof that we had to find the area of. This is where that 7 feet, 8.5 came from. Then we have this little triangle here on the gable end. Okay. All those surfaces together equaled 573 square feet. Okay. All right. So before I actually show you this stuff here, I'm going to rearrange things because this is getting kind of full of a lot of calculations, a lot of numbers. It's starting to get confusing to me. All right. And one of the advantages of using Google Sheets is that you can create more than one page. Okay. You can make one page where it just has all your calculations on it, and then another page where it just has the final numbers. Okay, that's kind of what I want to do here, because I don't want to have all this on this kind of like my main page. I don't want to have all the calculations right on the main page. So what I want everybody to do is go down here to this plus sign. You're going to add another sheet, another page. Automatically take you to that new page. And skip some cells here, go down to like A3, and we'll go and we'll title this surface area calculations. Okay, and then we're going to go back. You can just click between the pages by going down here at the bottom and clicking on sheet 1 or sheet 2. Go back to sheet 1, and I'm going to drag and select these cells here. So all the math cells that we did all the work on, and then the sum. Click and drag just to select, and then I'm going to right click, copy, just all that stuff. Right click, so I select the cell I want to paste it into, then right click, paste, and we'll copy all that over here. All right, so I'll do that one more time, what I did there. I'm going to go to page 1, and I'm going to delete this stuff because I don't need anymore. It's on the other side, so I'm going to push delete. And you don't have this, so I'm just going to delete this over here. Okay. So now you should have a blank here, and basically just moved all the calculations over to this page. Now, while we're over here, let's go ahead and label these. So if we ever want to look back, we can remember what they were. All right, this was the exterior walls. These first two numbers both were exterior walls, right? So I'm going to label one of the cells exterior walls, and I'm going to click and drag, select both of these, and make it. I'm going to make this one cell by merging. But over here, and then I'll center it too. Just keeping my work organized here. All right, let's label this number 2, 185. That was from our roof. Okay, that's the roof calculations. And then this last one was for what we call the gable end of the roof. And I'm going to make all these centered too, just to make it same. One last little formatting thing. Because this surface area calculation title kind of got cut off, if you recall, you can do what you call wrapping the text. Okay. So so it'll show all the text. We'll just show it down a line down. So if I click on that cell, I can go up to Format, Text Wrapping, Wrap, and it'll. So now if I ever come back to this page a little long, a couple days later, I understand where all these numbers come from. Okay. I'm going to go to page 1, sheet 1 again. Now we're going to actually calculate how much sheeting we need. Sheeting can be like OSB, it can be plywood. It's things that you cover the surface of a wall with. Okay. In this case, the dimensions, the things that we buy sheeting from, are usually 4 feet by 8 feet. Okay. And if something is 4 feet by 8 feet, okay, and it's a rectangle, to find the area of a rectangle, we just multiply the length times the width, so we multiply 4 times 8. Now, you don't have to put this on here, I'm just showing you, but so we have a 4 by 8 sheet, okay, going to equal 32 square feet. Each sheet can cover 32 square feet. Okay. All right, now if we click on this cell next to sheeting and I push equals, I can go to the next page and actually pull a number from the next page, which is what we need to do now. So I'm going to go to the next page, and I need to pull the sum, right? All the surface area that we need to cover with sheeting is right here. And I'm going to click in that cell. If you notice what it will do, it'll say, hey, from sheet 2, from page 2, pull the number from F4. If I go back to page 1 now, okay, you'll see it's going to be pulling that number from page 2. If I push enter, it'll copy that number down, 573. Sheeting I need, that's just the total amount of area I need to cover. To find the number of sheets of sheeting that I need, I'm going to divide that by how much one sheet will cover. And one sheet will cover, we just talked about 32 square feet. So, and I use the backslash for divide by 32, and then if I push enter, that will give me, hey, I need about 17.9 sheets to cover that surface area. Label this over here as a 4 by 8 sheet. Okay. I skipped the column on purpose. Go ahead and skip a column on purpose, and then we're going to label this as 4 by 8 sheets. So we need 17.9 4 by 8 sheets. All right, now what about shingles? What number should I pull for shingles? Well, if I'm going to use shingles, those will cover the roof, right? Those are going to cover the roof. So if I push equals and then go over here to this page, look at my calculations, I'm looking for not the whole amount, I'm looking for just what I have to put on the roof, right? Here's the surface area of the roof. So I'm going to call out that number, 185. And I'm going to push enter just to make sure, yep, there I pulled 185. Now I've got to divide that by, right, how much surface area a bundle of shingles covers. How much surface area a bundle of shingles will cover, okay? And if you look on the bundles of shingles, it'll tell you how much surface area, but typically, or at least the traditional amount that it covers is 32 to 33 square feet. So I'm going to type in 33, push enter. According to this, I'll need about 5.6 bundles if each bundle covers about 33 square feet. Do that one more time. Equals, and the shingles, I'm just covering the roof, so all I need is this number, the roof number, and then I'm going to divide that by 33. Tell me how many bundles of shingles I need. Now drip edge. Drip edge goes along the perimeter. Okay, it goes along the perimeter of the roof. So we're going to have to do some calculations again because we haven't figured that the perimeter of the roof yet. So we're going to go to sheet 2, and I'm going to skip a couple lines here and type in perimeter calculations. I'm going to wrap that as well. And if I'm looking for the drip edge, I'm just going to pay attention to the perimeter of the roof. And so now I've got to look back at my pictures here to make sure I know what I'm doing. So drip edge is going to go all along the perimeter. So if I start at this corner, I'm going to go up to the peak, down to the eave, and same thing on the other side. Okay. So I'm going to have to add up. So from this distance from here to here is 7 feet 8.5 inches. I'm going to have to go add another 7 feet 8.5 inches going down, and I'm going to have to go 12 feet over. This is 12 feet right here. 12 feet over, and another 7 8.5, 7 8.5, and 12. So kind of a quicker way to do that is I could take 7 8.5, 7 feet 8.5 inches times 4, because I've got 4 of those, right? And then I could add 12 times 2, because I've got 2 of the 12 rows. Right, so I push equals. It's on the computer. I'm doing some calculations here. I've got 2 12-foot, so I'm going to go 2 times 12. Plus, now 7 feet 8.5 inches. Now we changed that into 7 feet and some decimal part of a foot. Okay, we did that when we calculated our surface area. We have to do that. Okay, and actually the surface area of the roof. We did it. So I'm going to actually delete the plus sign and just push enter. Okay, so all I got is 2 times 12 right now. That's fine. I'll add to it in a minute. I'm going to go up here to the roof to remind myself, hey, when I did the 7, when I changed the 8.5 inches, I divided it by 12 so that I would get a decimal part of a foot. Okay, that's what I did up here. And the decimal part of a foot that I got was 0.7083. Okay. So down here, if you want to push escape, if you start messing with the formula up here, you got to push escape to get out of it. I'm going to go back down to here, and so I'm going to add 4 times 7.083. Because this was the decimal approximation of that 7 feet 8.5 inches, and I have 4 of them. So 4 times that plus the 2 12-foot pieces. And I can push enter. That's how many feet of drip edge I'll need. All right, I want you to Google and figure out what lengths does drip edge come in typically. Okay, if you're going to buy some drip edge flashing, what lengths does it come in? Because we need 52 feet total about, but we're going to have to divide that by however long one piece of drip edge is. And then enter it in the chat once you find out. And Lowe's or Home Depot, you'll see some that are 10 feet, you'll see some that are 10.5, okay? Sometimes you'll see smaller ones, but I saw a lot of 10s and 10.5s. Okay, I'm guessing the reason why there's some that are 10.5 feet. Okay, is because when you put drip edge on, you're supposed to overlap a little bit, right? So essentially, when you purchase two pieces, you're going to overlap them probably like about 1/2 of an inch. So you're really only going to be able to use 10 of those 10.5 feet as far as the total distance. That's probably why they're 10.5 feet, to kind of account for that overlap. So what in that case, I'm just going to divide by 10 because, not really, I need 10 actual feet and don't need that overlap. All right, can't, that overlap doesn't help me at all. So when I go back to my page 1, and I'm at drip edge, I can say equals. And then I go to page 2, I'm going to pull that amount of total linear feet. And then I'm going to divide with the backslash, divide by 10, because they come in 10-foot lengths essentially that you can actually use at 10 feet. And what that's saying is that I need 5.2 lengths of 10-foot lengths of drip edge. All right, now before I move on to the studs and plate, I want to get a little more, I don't like these weird numbers right here, right? First of all, there are lots of decimals, right? I'm not going to be able to buy 17.9 of a sheet. I'm not going to be able to buy 5.6 of a bundle. I'm not going to be able to buy 5.2 10-foot lengths, right? So we're going to have to do some rounding, first of all, and then we also have to think about, hey, we want some extra, okay? Because we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be able to use some of the material. Once we cut it a certain length, we might not be able to use the leftover pieces, okay? If you're thinking of plywood, if you're putting plywood on a roof, maybe you'll only end up with like 8-inch piece at the end that you cut off. You can't use that 8-inch piece really anywhere else, okay, because your studs are 16 or sorry, your rafters are 16 or 2 feet apart. Okay, so there's going to be waste that you're not going to be able to use. So we've got to account for that when we do a construction takeoff. Okay, and in this cell here, we're going to do some rounding, and then we're going to account for some waste. Okay. So if you click on the cell there, you can go equals. There's a nice little way it'll round for you if you type in the words round up. And then if you have open parentheses and you click on this cell here and parentheses, okay, it'll always round up to the nearest whole number. All right, so what I did there was I said equals, and I just typed in the words round up, and I typed in a parenthesis, open parenthesis, selected this cell where it has the number that I want to round up, and ended the parenthesis. Push enter, it'll just round it up to the nearest whole number. All right, now there's a couple ways that you can actually add in some waste, okay? You can simply, if we're talking about sheets, you could just say, hey, I just want a couple extra sheets. So you could just go +2. So I went back into this cell, I selected, I went up to here, where it typed in all the formula, okay? I clicked, and I could go plus, well, just +2, give me 2 extra sheets. Enter, okay, and then I'll just add it for you. That's one way. You could also add a certain amount in terms of percentage. Like you could say, well, I want 10% extra, okay? If you did 10% extra, though, you better do 10% extra on this before you do your rounding, because if I do 10% extra on afterwards, I'm going to end up with another decimal number, and then I'm going to have to round again, okay? But I'm okay with just adding 2 for now. Okay, that's good enough for me. I'm just going to add a couple of sheets. I can always return them afterwards if I don't use them. All right, same thing with shingles here. I'm going to set equals, I'm going to round up, whatever that number is there. And I'm going to give myself, I'm just going to do one extra bundle. You can do 2 if you want. It doesn't really matter to me. Just the point is I want you to make sure and order a little extra, because you're always going to make a mistake somewhere, or you're going to need a little extra. Okay. Drip edge, go ahead and do the same thing. I'll let you do that though, okay? Round this number up and then add a couple extra lengths or length extra. that you have enough to do what you need to do there.